everyone, it's Tracey and today I am doing a webinar for you about divorce. So we do have a webinar series that we're doing and this is one of 4. And it's okay for me to talk to you about go and get your divorce and file your application. That's all great. And I can tell you what the court will give you and how to do it. But what actual documents do you need? So today's webinar is called Divorce. What documents do I need? I know, tricky, huh? Right, so let's get started with some of the obvious, okay? Let's talk about your marriage certificate. You say, that's all right, I've got my marriage certificate, I don't need that. You're a silly girl, why do we have to talk about marriage certificate? Studying the obvious. No, it's not. So if you've got a marriage certificate where you can see your signature that you've got written on the bottom, let's say it's the one that you were at the ceremony and you and your partner have signed that marriage certificate in front of the celebrant or the minister or priest or whoever, was it your Elvis Presley, if you've gone to LA, then what you want to do is that is not the certificate that I'm wanting. Okay, what the court wants is, that's called your ceremonial certificate. They're actually wanting your registered marriage certificate. So this is the thing that you have registered in Australia with the Registry of Births, Deaths and Marriages in most states. And it is the thing that sort of looks like your birth certificate. It's typed up. It will outline what your maiden name was, what his name was or her name was, and who actually did the marriage, when it was, who are the witnesses, all of those things. That's your registered marriage certificate, and that is the certificate that the court is after for you to file when you're applying for a divorce, okay? So it's not that tricky. Now, if you say, okay, I don't have that, or the other person took it and I don't have a copy of it, because you will need an original here or a certified copy, then that's okay. I've got a slide up here which will outline for each state exactly where you can go to get it. You will have to pay a certain amount of money depending upon what certificate and how you get it. It can be like $50 or $80. It'll vary from state to state. So if you're in Queensland, it's the Registry of Births, Deaths and Marriages, and I've got the link there for you, so you can just click on and apply online. If you're in the ACT, it's the Access Canberra, have the connection through to it. New South Wales is the New South Wales Registry of Births, Deaths and Marriages. The Northern Territory is the Births, Deaths and Marriages. South Australia is the Consumer and Business Services Births, Deaths and Marriages. I know, mouthful, right? Tasmania is Births, Deaths and Marriages. Victoria, Births, Deaths and Marriages, Victoria. And Western Australia is the Department of Justice, Births, Deaths and Marriages. So I've got all the links up on there. All you'll have to do is click on those. I'll be able to link you through for you to apply for that. But make sure you're not going for a ceremonial certificate. I don't want to see pretty pictures of wedding rings on it. I just want the typed out, written, registered certificate. That's what you're going to need. Now, for those of you who have been married for less than 2 years prior to the date that you are filing your application, then you are going to need to get a counselling certificate to say that you have both attended upon marriage counselling, and it's a proper type of marriage counselling which will have a link up here for you. And in the event that you say no, you're wanting an exemption from that counselling because of practical inability, such as someone has gone overseas, they've left, you don't know where they're located, there's severe domestic violence or safety issues, or someone's become incapacitated or something like that, then you're going to need to do an affidavit, which is a written statement where you actually outline what has actually occurred in terms of the facts, so as the court can make a determination about giving you that exemption or not. That affidavit can be found on the Federal Court of Australia website, and just search for affidavit. It will be blank and you'll be able to fill in the details there. Now with the counselling certificate, the place you're going to go to get that counselling certificate is called the Family Relationship Advice Line, or FRAL, F-R-A-L. And that is simply, it's 1-800-050-321, and they'll give you access to counsellors for you in your local state or territory. Now, the next one is the big one. It's the actual divorce application. So it's called, drum roll, an application for a divorce. That's it. Now you're going to find this. You have to apply for your divorce actually online these days. You can't just fill out a paper copy and file it in the court. It has to be online. And the link is up where you're up on the screen where you're going to actually, it's called ComCourts. So it's www.comcourts.gov.au. You're going to have to register. So you'll need your email address and contact details to register to get a profile. And that is where you will go online in order to get your application, and that is where you will file it as well. So that's really important for you to remember that. It's ComCourts, comcourts.gov.au, okay? Now, if you go through and you're doing the application for a divorce and you want to outline for the court that you have separated but you've been separated under one roof, then you are going to need to prove to the court that you have in fact acted on that intention to separate. So you're going to have to file an affidavit attesting to all the reasons why or how you have separated under one roof. So that is an affidavit where you can go to the federal court website. So just Google federal court, and then when you get in there, search for affidavit. You don't want affidavit proving signature or anything like that. Just look for the one that just says solely affidavit, and you can actually start to type in exactly why it is you've been separated under one roof. Remembering some of the issues you're going to have to address or write about are that you have moved into separate rooms, that you are no longer involved in a sexual relationship with the other party, that you have divided up your chores like washing, ironing, cooking meals, so you're doing your own chores and possibly even buying your own groceries. Dividing of your bills, so any outlays, rates, electricity, phone bills that you're paying your own share if possible. Separating of bank accounts if that's an option. Really importantly, socialising separately, so that when you're going out, you're not holding out to everybody outside of your relationship that you're still together, but rather that you're voicing that it has been separated. And importantly is the communication of your separation to other family members or friends. Now, with that, I would highly recommend that if you have communicated to other people outside of your marriage that you're separated, get that person that you've communicated it to or told to file an affidavit by themselves as well for you, stating that they have been told by you that you have separated. Okay, that actually is a really strong piece of evidence for the court to confirm that you've separated. So remember, it might be an affidavit of you proving that you outlining for the court all the reasons why you say you've separated on one roof, and an affidavit by somebody else saying, yes, you've told me. So the more affidavits you have, the better. I would say probably at least 2 affidavits from somebody outside of your relationship is really helpful. Okay. Now, the next document you may need, and it'll depend on your circumstances, is if you're not on an income or anything like that, then you might need to get a reduction of fee document, an application filed, so that you don't have to pay the full amount of your divorce. As for what that divorce amount will be in that application fee, it changes so regularly, so I'm not going to put it on here. But if you go onto the federal court website or the family court website, it will actually outline for you the divorce application fee as it is at that time. Now, to get a reduction in the divorce application fee, then you will need to prove you need to provide a copy of one of the following. One, a healthcare card, a pensioner's card, a senior's healthcare card. You will need to provide evidence that you are in receipt of legal aid funding, and that could be simply just a letter from legal aid confirming that you have actually received legal aid, and so they're representing you in some capacity, whichever jurisdiction. You will need to prove evidence that you're either on youth allowance, ab study, OS study, that type of thing, or that you are 18 years or younger, or you're an inmate in a prison, so you're incarcerated. So that will be, you can get a form that outlines from the prison that you are currently incarcerated, possibly even evidence of a criminal history outlining that you're still incarcerated would be sufficient. Now, if none of those apply, but you say, hey, I'm still struggling, I don't have, I haven't received an income and I can't afford to pay for this divorce, then what you would need to do is you'll need to file a financial hardship form. So this is where you basically outline to the court that you would suffer financial hardship if you had to pay the full fee, and they may require further financial information from you. For instance, how much you earn, who's your current employer, possibly evidence of pay slips, that type of thing, before they'll consider it. Now, with any of these reduction fees, etc., or concessions, I want to discuss with you the fact that as for whether you get the reduction or not will depend upon whether you have applied for a joint divorce application together with the other person that you're married to, your spouse, or whether you've done it individually on your own. If you've done it individually on your own, you'll only need to prove that you have one of those concessions to get the reduction in fee. If you've done it as a joint application for a divorce, then you both have to satisfy one of those concessions or those exemptions in order to get the reduction. If one person is earning, let's say, $80,000 or $100,000 and the other person is not working, and you file jointly, you're not going to get that reduction in that divorce application fee. Now, when you're filing copies of your healthcare card, seniors card, or concession card, please make sure you photocopy and get them certified by a lawyer or a justice of the peace, but photocopy both the front and the back of the card. They're going to want to see both sides of it. Now, let's say we've got all that, you've filed your application in court and you're like, okay, great, that's all I need to do, right? Nah, sorry, the process still goes on. You now, once you have filed in your the application in the court, if you have done it jointly, then that is fine. You won't need to do any service documents or do anything with your application. When the document comes back, it'll be a note of the court date, etc., up in the top corner, and I'll deal with that later. But if you have filed the application on your own, then you're going to have to go through and serve the divorce application to the other party. So what that means when we reference service, the word service is you've got to get a copy to the other side so that they know that there's actually an application on foot or, you know, in progress before the court. Okay, so that's what we reference as service documents. Now, with your service documents, there's a few documents you're going to need, and it will depend upon how you're going to try and serve the document. So you will need an affidavit of service, you will need an acknowledgement of service, and you will need an affidavit of proving signature, or potentially a quasi affidavit by post. Okay. Now, the affidavit of service is as I said, it's an affidavit outlining the statement of what has occurred, but there's actually a pro forma document. So if you go to the federal court website and search affidavit of service, it will actually come up as a document you just have to basically tick in and fill in the answers for. This affidavit of service will need to be completed by the person who actually gives the document to the other person, okay, to your spouse. The thing about that, it can't be you, okay? It has to be someone who's over the age of 18. It can be a relation, it can be an adult child, it can be anybody else, it can be a professional. It just can't be you filling or completing that form. The reason we have an acknowledgement of service form is that is the form we give to the other party when we serve, and it's a choice for them as to whether they want to sign to say, yes, they have actually received the document. If they don't fill it out, that's fine. Don't get all worried about it. It's not mandatory, but it does help to prove that they've received the document. Now, the affidavit of proving signature is used for when you are serving them via post. So for instance, if you go, I don't want to physically attend upon them, but I'm going to put it in the mail, I'm going to send it via registered post. If you're going to send the documents via registered post, please make sure that you tick the thing that requires the person to actually sign for the document that they've received, and that they issue you back a receipt showing that, because that is what you will use to prove that you've actually sent the document. So then when they sign for it, in order for the court to be satisfied that that person is in fact the person who's received it, then you will actually need to complete an affidavit which outlines and says, yes, this is their signature. I know it's their signature because I've seen it time and time again, because we've been married for 30 years. And you might say, here is a copy of, let's say, a tax return that they've signed, which reflects that that's their signature somewhere else, or a copy of their driver's license, which shows their signature on it. Just something to prove that that person actually, it was in fact that person who received that document. So those are the basic documents that you need in order to go through and get your divorce done. So there's a few in it. It's not as cumbersome as you think. Just take it step by step.